Number 4 on tonight's agenda. Ordinance 2014-17, an ordinance amending an ordinance entitled the 2014 Salary Ordinance for the Township of ToCN. This is a first reading by title. This is a very narrow salary ordinance. What happened this year is that we increased the hours of our recreation camp, and we are correspondingly increasing the pay they were giving to the counselors to correspond with those increase in hours. Any comments by the committee on that particular ordinance?
Also, the fees.
The fees went up in that. I'd be remiss if I pointed that out. This is a zero-sum thing. Fees for the campers went up, and that in turn gets paid out to the counselors in terms of the additional work that they do. Okay. Any other comments by the committee? Take a motion on that.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor Jackson.
Yes.
Mayor Engel.
Yes.
Mayor Orgo.
Yes.
Mayor Fitzgerald.
Yes.
Mayor McNamara.
Yes, public hearing on that will be on September 10th, 2014. Number 5 this evening is Resolution 2014-88. It's a resolution appointing Eric L. Wagner, AIA, of the firm Kaleni Johnson Wagner, for architectural services relating to the repair of the town hall roof and cupola, not to exceed $3,200. And just a little bit of background on this. In the course of replacing the roof on this building, it was discovered that there was potentially some structural issues with the cupola. And not wanting to compromise public safety, we contacted the original architect for this building, which, believe it or not, is still around. And we asked him to become involved and make an assessment as to what work needed to be done on the cupola by the roofing contractor to make it safe. And we were given an amount not to exceed $3,200, and that's what we're looking to do here this evening. Any comments from the committee on that?
No move.
Second.
Second.
Roll call.
Deputy Mayor Jackson.
Yes.
Mayor Engel.
Yes.
Mayor Orgo.
Yes.
Mayor Fitzgerald.
Yes.
Mayor McNamara.
Yes. Resolution 2014-89. This is a resolution authorizing the mayor and municipal clerk to execute an amendment to the 2012-14 agreement with Monmouth County for cooperative participation in the community development program pursuant to the Interlocal Services Act. And quite frankly, this is more of an administrative matter than anything else. We participate in a program with the county that I believe enables us to go ahead, Bob.
It's interesting. We're basically helping out based on the population and the rest of the county. The county gets federal dollars still for community development purposes for eligible communities. ToCN is not eligible for the relative affluence of the town. However, those federal dollars are based on population. So we've always participated to add 10,000 population, however many few dollars that may bring into the county. So this is a minor amendment.
Yeah, what happened is HUD, the Department of Housing and Urban Development, enacted some new regulations. Our agreement with the county has to be amended to be consistent with those regulations. I think the amendment of the regulations are benign. They don't really affect us at all. But in any case, we have to do it if we want to maintain participation in that program.
Actually, I'm not totally offended by Mayor, because the reality is some of those community development block grants go to improving places that, and I've certainly I did, Long Range, for example, that been able to do some good things there. So.
We're doing our little bit to help.
Any other comments from the committee on that one? Can I get a motion, please?
Second.
Roll call.
Deputy Mayor Jackson.
Yes.
Mayor Engel.
Yes.
Mayor Orgo.
Yes.
Mayor Fitzgerald.
Yes.
Mayor McNamara.
Yes. Number 7 this evening is the motion to adopt the consent agenda. Resolution 2014-90, a resolution authorizing the release of guarantees and acceptance of maintenance guarantee, zoning board application number 804, 200 Coast Neck 34 LLC. Resolution 2014-91, resolution authorizing the cancellation of 2014 and 2015 taxes per the tax assessor. Resolution 2014-92, resolution authorizing recreation program refunds. Resolution 2014-93, resolution approving change order number 1, Town Hall slate roof, for amount of $782. And resolution 214-94, resolution authorizing the acceptance of performance guarantees, planning board application number 714, 3 Comstock Lane. Any comments from the committee? Motion, please.
Second.
Roll call.
Deputy Mayor Jackson.
Yes.
Mayor Engel.
Yes.
Mayor Orgo.
Yes.
Mayor Fitzgerald.
Yes.
Mayor McNamara.
Yes. Administrative report, Bob.
No report tonight, Mayor. Thank you.
Vouchers, Mike?
I did review the vouchers. I will tell you this time, just because it was my turn again, I counted them. It's become a daunting task. 234 vouchers to be approved this time. I would ask, I did go through them. I am going to ask the administrator to again remind Public Works there was a voucher for tube bearings, and it didn't reference a particular vehicle. Based upon my reading, it's obviously a mower, but there was no particular indication. I just want to.
You've asked for that in the past.
I have. Well, I think I specifically asked about the cars and their number of vehicles or license plates, but I would like to add that to the list just to make sure that we don't have just an added safety check. Total voucher 7.786 million. Of that, approximately 6 point something million is transfer of tax monies otherwise collected by us to the county or to the school boards. And with that, I would ask for approval of those vouchers. I do want to see one voucher in there. Bob had talked about the computers, and there were what I thought was a high number, which I think you had to do an emergency situation on those folks. The upgrading from Windows XP to Windows 7.
Upgrading the Windows, it was also for the computers themselves.
I saw that it was broken out though, but I thought it looked like it was $1,500 for the software for 4 versions of Windows XP, or 7 rather, which seemed somewhat exorbitant.
Yeah, that was part of the confusion you and I had talked about.
Yeah, there was a little confusion. Most of that was for hardware and software.
Okay, fine. Because it was a separate hardware thing, and it looked a little bit low for the 4 computers. Maybe they were.
Maybe it wasn't said right, but I know the facts are that most of that's hardware.
All right, and now 3 other committee people were satisfied because that was done on an emergent basis, which I'm satisfied with. I'm not second guessing it, but I just want to make sure that we can, some of these things you can walk into Staples and buy it cheaper than these vendors show up on the basis.
I got one question on that hardware bill that we had, the 14,000, and then we put 10,000 away in the budget. How do we do the other 4,000, the 5,000?
Mr. Roy was talking about a bill for repairs to the front end loader. You did budget 10,000 cap. The other 4 would have to come out of the normal heavy equipment maintenance operating.
Any comments on the other vouchers? Make a motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Deputy Mayor Johnson?
Yes, is that, so it was taken from Tina?
No, Deputy Mayor Engel?
Yes.
Mayor Argo?
Yes.
Mayor Fitzgerald?
Yes.
Mayor McNabb?
Yes, except to abstain as discluded. Township committee reports, Tom?
Well, I don't know when we're going to have the next wildlife committee, sometime in September, I will set it up.
Yes, it'll be in September.
It'll be in September, as soon as we can work out a date. It'll be on the township website. I already had somebody came tonight who wants to volunteer. I want to see Bob about it, but they're working to see you about it. Cold Lake Business Association is having their annual pig roast the 2nd Tuesday of the month. So I think that's the 9th.
We have that out, it seems like,
Okay.
that printed out.
I have it on under recreation.
Okay. All right. Shade tree we talked about. Other than that, it's been quiet.
Mike?
The only report I had is the report from planning board, which did not happen. We had only one application last night, and that's where we asked to get that carried to September. But I'm going to ask all the township committee people to pay attention to it, because eventually it's the,
It's called
the
Mercer.
heirs property. And the reason we may see it again, I raised it last month, I think, about, whether we have to take a look at some of the long range planning if they wanted to try to put some properties in the butts, and so the mayor's taking that on long range. But they're going to come to the planning board to ask for a subdivision of one of the pieces into 8 lots, and another piece for 3 lots, is that right?
Right. And it's already been subdivided at one time, and there's deed restrictions on it.
Right.
That the township committee is going to have to lift in order for us to do it. Whether we want to lift them or not, it's a whole discussion. There's conservation. All this has got to be changed all.
So we have to, at some point in time, we have to approach it. And my position is, I'm not sure they should be able to put a planning board before they get a deed restriction from this township committee.
That's my opinion.
So they should be coming here first, not to the planning board, because quite frankly, if this body will not agree to vacate the deed restriction, and to flesh that out a little further, we're all going to have to individually decide and then vote as, you know, smart people did before us to agree to the deed restriction. You know, we're now going to undo what the others did to now keep in mind that what was done at the time was another subdivision at the time with the granting of certain rights and subdivisions and lots and a sale to the county and some other things. So philosophically, I'll have to start getting your arms around that a little bit before we have to face it, because I suspect if the applicant follows the direction that Committee of Oregon and I have tried to send to them that they need, in my opinion, it's a prerequisite, they need that condition proceeding come to us first. I suspect they're going to be looking to get on our agenda next, so you don't have to familiarize yourself with that.
Yeah, or get Tim to send you up the paperwork, because the problem is they subdivided before, and they took their bonus lot before, and they sold this bonus lot. And it's just,
I'm sure Mr. Anfuse will prepare a worthy presentation for us. Anything else, Mike? Yeah?
I had a lot of conversations with J.C. Canal, as you know, over the past few months, and I was a little bit confused as to why Colts Neck. It's two storms that went back to back, if you recall. About a month or so ago, we had so many power outages in town. In fact, compared to our neighbors, we seem to have an inordinate number of power outages. I was happy, however, to be able to report that they restore power in most places relatively quickly. I also was told, and I witnessed myself, as well as did others, that J.C. Pennell, the night prior to the storm, stationed their vehicles in the Becker Hardware parking lot in that area. So to me, that was definitely a step in the right direction. I was also told a lot about, about some of the tree cutting that was going on in town, so I went and observed a lot of the tree cutting myself. I noticed that in a few places they weren't cutting, and I checked back with J.C. Pennell, and I found out that that's because they were different circuits. In fact, usually circuits that we share with some other towns, and for the most part, they're scheduled to do that tree cutting next year. So by this time next year, we're going to have much of our tree cutting, if not all, done throughout the town. And I can tell you that I'm very pleased with, in many cases, how much cutting they're doing based on what they used to do, even as close as last year. So I've asked Jerry Riccardi to come in and visit us. He's scheduled to come in tonight, obviously not the best time, but he will be coming in, I believe, next month for our first meeting of the month and to give a report. But I will say, whether it be communication to us, I think it's improved and heading in the right direction. Communication with the residents also improved and heading in the right direction. The technology that they've created and the infrastructure they've created around that technology, I know I mentioned this last time, has greatly improved with their app and the ability to let Jason know that you've lost power and that they'll text you when power has been restored. So if you're not home, you can be notified. And just a lot of good things. So he'll be coming in, Jerry Riccardi will be coming in to give us an update at the next one.
Anything else?
We had a resolution about the recreation camp. I can just tell you that it was an exceptionally well-run camp. It has been for year after year from the time that I went to last year, but this year just dynamite. Just really good work from them. The fair I talked about for many months. It obviously has occurred, and again, great success, great volunteerism, great gathering of our friends and neighbors. So that went very well.
I just have a few quick announcements coming from Recreation. August 23rd at Brookdale Community College, the Jackie Lee concert, which will include Matthew Schuler, also from The Voice, and the Rock and Roll Chorus. Doors open at 5:30 p.m. and is sponsored by Operation Provide Comfort to benefit the restoration of Union Beach. If you have not bought tickets, please do. Please come. It is a very worthy cause. A lot of folks in this township have spent a lot of time putting this particular program together in support of our friends in Union Beach. August 30th to 31st, dog agility and dog diving, medieval times type program, and vendors at Bucksville Park, sponsored by the Colts Neck Lions Club. Anybody that's watched it on ESPN, it's a lot of fun if you're into our Canine Friends competitions. September 9th, as Mr. Orville indicated, Pig Roast at Bucksville Park. September 20th, Rock Fest at Bucksville Park, which is an all-day affair. September 27th to the 28th will be a craft fair at Bucksville Park. That is an annual event of jury artists. Appreciate everybody's attendance to the extent of your interest.
talking about energy reminding me. I think we've talked about it before, but we're looking to take another run at the energy aggregation bid in September. So that'll be another day of angst for some of us on the committee, but hopefully we'll have some good news when we come to the meeting that night.
All right, comments from the public. I know we've had a few this evening, but what's a few more? Mrs. Amon?
I would like to ask Mr. Engel what is the status of the schoolhouse. I'm hearing rumors and I'd like facts.
You mean Mr. Johnson?
You may be mid.
What's the rumor?
That's right.
What's the rumor? Montrose Schoolhouse.
Yes,
Was the Montrose Schoolhouse?
that's
Yes, thank you. I meant to actually bring that up in some of my reports, so thanks for the reminder. I believe it was just last meeting we talked about having a discussion about moving the schoolhouse onto the property here.
That was my fault.
That's okay, no, always good discussions. So I brought that back to historic preservation. We had lengthy more discussion on that, and it was decided, and I brought that back to our administrator, that's probably not, it's not going to happen right now. So we are going to move ahead with the repairs up to $15,000 that was approved at the last meeting. So you can see a new fence shortly, and some other improvements that need to be done to maintain our historic house there, schoolhouse.
I'd like to make a comment that I was appointed to the very first recreation committee.
Yes.
One of the things that I was responsible for was putting together the various parts of the church centenary, 1964. And out of that came the Historical Association, Ann Miles, the Colts Neck Singers, which was Betty Tuminosa, the Fifes and Drums, which was Walter Voorhees, Frank Hare organized the first Memorial Day, and Gene Pazuski organized the dressmaking for the outfits, the colonial outfits for the drums and fifes. One of the things that I admired Ann Miles about, they published a book which gave a little history, but she also ran 2 antique shows a year, so that you wouldn't have to tap the taxpayers for $50,000 if the Historical Preservation Group, which is probably one of our largest committees, were doing their job and doing the fundraising for any kind of work that needs to be done on the schoolhouse.
15,000, not 50, just
1-5.
1.5, not 5.0. The number.
Give it to me again.
15,000, 1.5.
Okay,
Not 5.0.
not 50.
No.
But even so,
I understand, but I just want, that's a pretty big
you
difference.
know,
Make sure we get that one right.
get with the program and raise a fund, have a dinner dance, do whatever you do, but it shouldn't be put on the taxpayer.
Okay. Ms. Mann?
I have 3 questions on this particular, on the Montrose Road Schoolhouse. Have you taken bids in to replace the fence? Who was awarded the contract, and what was the amount? And then what are you going to do? That's on one question. Okay.
Well, it seems like just 15 minutes ago.
But that's on one. And what is the historical committee going to do with the remaining money that will be left?
You can see all that. You can see the administrator for all of that, as you would for any of those types of questions.
But just so you know, if you're not giving the money's made
I
available.
know, it's coming out of.
It's voucher money, that's not. In other words, we're not giving a pot of money and say, go ahead and do whatever you want with it.
No, but you had discussed the fence.
Ms. Mann, it was discussed and it was answered. It was asked and answered. I will do that one last time. There was bids that were brought in. They were reviewed. They were approved. And the Historic Preservation Committee was given up to $15,000. They're going to voucher that. The fence has already
No,
been.
you keep saying $50,000.
$15,000.
But he sure sounded like.
1-5.
I know, that's
You're
what
sitting
you
too
said.
far away.
So what was the bid on the fence?
You can check the administrator after that,
She
just
wasn't
like
here.
any other.
She wasn't here.
Mr.
Okay.
Shouts, Deputy Mayor went over that at length, but I don't think you were at that meeting.
I wasn't at that meeting.
Why don't
you
you
get that
chat?
information
You
from
can
Mr.
chat. You can chat.
All right, my second comment is, you really astonish me. we put a new roof on, and Eddie from Public Works, Thompson, the director, has had concerns regarding the cupola for many, many years. So we put the roof on and then we hire an architect? Isn't that backwards?
No, not at all.
Why?
Because the roof, there were no structural issues with the roof, it needed to be replaced. You don't need an architect or a design professional to spec out a roof replacement. When you go replace the roof on your house, you don't hire an architect.
No, but
In the course, wait, you asked the question, I answered the question for you. In the course of the architect performing his work, which was to include the cupola, he discovered unanticipated, undiscovered latent problems with the cupola that suggested potential structural problems with which he was not comfortable performing the work without the aid of a design professional. In other words, he didn't want to start doing work and have the thing collapse. That's when you bring the design professional in. So if there are latent issues that you can't see, and he couldn't see them and we couldn't see them, that were only discovered in the course of this work, and he did the prudent thing and he came to us and said, I'm not comfortable doing this because of public safety, we said, fine, we'll bring the appropriate design professional. And we just got fortunate enough to find the original guy. But no, I mean, in construction, in rehab, especially in an older building like this, to come up with a situation, a latent situation that requires the involvement of a design professional, absolutely not problematic at all.
Well, to you it isn't, but it's costing us more and more money.
Well, would you rather that or have a collapse on somebody?
No, but Eddie had warned you several years prior to this.
Well,
No,
the bottom line is,
And the public had even noticed how bad it was.
well, I mean, you're looking at the visible, the cosmetic stuff. We're not talking about cosmetics, we're talking about structural, things that you can't see. So that was the concern.
All right, and my last question is, I noticed that we're sprucing up the foresight, and the Shade Tree Commission has been given permission to remove poison ivy and vines from the foresight. Then why were trees and underbrush removed on a green belt? The green belt is adjacent to the foresight and is adjacent to the Axelrod's property that runs along the stream. Mrs. Axelrod sits on the Shade Tree Commission. Clearing this green belt may lead to runoff into the stream. We just had the pond stretch, which could prove a problem for blockage. We have already spent considerable amount of money on this stretching of the ponds, which flows into the stream. If you check the tax map, this does not fall under foresight. So could you, this sends a message to anyone adjacent to green belts that it is okay to change the topography. Have you authorized Mrs. Axelrod $500 to clear this area? If in fact there was authorization and paid, and if you paid for this by the governing body, can you explain why you did this action?
Mrs. Axelrod and the Shade Tree Commission is doing it as volunteers. Mrs. Axelrod has purchased and planted over $500 of trees at her own expense. Mrs. Axelrod is receiving $0.
Okay, that clarifies it then. Thank you.
See how these numbers start?
Yes, in reference to mention of the energy aggregation, I know in the current electric bill, they provide a little pamphlet showing the rates and including, and I know that they're different seasonally. And so as you go about that, it's going to be perhaps, I remember the last time we tried, we wanted to keep it a certain bill out for every month. But since their JCP&L rate varies month to month, it seems like as long as you keep below their rate in a given month, it should work, whether even though some months it might be higher than it would be during their lowest month because their rate is higher, the relationship.
It points up two issues. Number one, if I may.
Yeah, sure.
Issue number one is JCP&L is scared that this is going to happen and towns like this are going to aggregate and they're not going to get the business anymore with their set rate for 2 years or 3 years. Secondly, we did put in, quite frankly, at the mayor's behest, this will be the first town aggregating that requires that the aggregate number stays below the JCP&L fixed rate. I forget what it's called. There's a term of art with BPU. I apologize, I don't remember. But whatever their set rate is, we will always remain below that on a monthly basis, or we can pull our residents out of the contract if they go above. The pitch has always been that the aggregators have said to us was, oh, well, over a year we know we'll be cheaper because we're cheaper basically 7 months out of 12, then you're going to be cheaper over the course of a year. But we require that they have to be lower than the JCP bulk rate every month.
One other thing about it, when Jersey Central bills spike, it's all because of gas consumption, and gas went way up, natural gas. And the natural gas is what's controlling electric right now.
If they can't change the electric rate month to month, but the problem is that it's a rolling thing for them, that they go out and bid the aggregation on the. So the month would have been a change from 2 years before.
And a lot of, when you look at the distribution of their generating sources, a lot of what they use is coal and nuclear, because they buy from different sources, and every 6 months they'll give you a list, a publication showing where their sources are too.
The coal is old news. Most of those, it used to be coal because coal was cheaper, but most of those coal plants, if you're up on this stuff, they've converted over to gas.
Right.
Because gas is actually cheaper than coal now, separate and apart from the ecological issues. So a lot of that, a lot of those, the aggregators are also pledged to be greener than JCP&L. JCP&L is much greener than it used to be a number of years ago.
Thank you. The other thing I wanted to mention to you, you may find interesting, the Monmouth County Planning Board has submitted a comment to COA on their new regulations, and a number of them are technical items, but the one that I think you can find interesting is that we are suggesting that they remove state planning, SDRP, planning area designations 4A, 4B, and 5 from any allocation of affordable housing obligation, which would be consistent actually with the Mount Laurel decision. So that was a specific that I thought ToCN might find.
Which is better.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, any other comments from the public?
I'd like to thank you for mentioning the concert. We kind of need all the help we can get. And I have a question after listening to that whole debate about whether or not to allow, to pass the resolution. That's for larger pieces of property. If you have neighbors on a rural road, not in a development, can they join together to
No.
give permission? No?
We're not aggregating the properties.
It's only aggregating energy.
Yes.
Not hunting.
I know, I intentionally used that word, but yes, no, you cannot aggregate the properties.
I just got a quick question on the people. When did they find, at what point did they find there was a problem, and what was the problem?
I mean, at what point during the
In the roofing? You said that they found.
I can address part of it, because I paid attention to it and I live right across the street, so I watched it nearly every day. It was after they had removed the old slate roof, and the problem is a sill problem, it's the supports underneath, it's what holds the cupola up. So it's not it's not a flashing issue that we would normally say would be a problem that we would think about for our own home on the chimney. That's not the issue. It's not a water intrusion issue. It is the infrastructure. We should move. Is the infrastructure supported directly above to hold the cupola up against gravity.
So they're gonna have to remove the whole.
No, we don't know yet.
I don't think that's
Because
the
my
case.
question is, shouldn't they have stopped? Because of the flashing,
To a certain extent.
and then had someone come in and look at it first?
You'd be right if that was the problem, that's not the problem.
But if you remove it, it will be.
No, if you have to, I didn't want to get too technical about it, but I would suspect most of the work is going to be done inside the attic, not outside the building.
I'm gonna keep an eye on that, okay?
Most of the work.
Jeff?
Jeff Sauter, Ann Street, Cold Snack, the man behind the camera too. Just to follow up on my comment last meeting, this may be a little bit odd, but since my comment was kind of lost in translation between Committeeman Mike Fitzgerald and I want to thank Tony here from the Journal for putting out an article on the chief. It's good for the chief, it's good for the police department, and it's good information for the residents of Cold Snack. Thank you, Tony.
Mr. Wilcox?
In hiring the original architect, did you hire the guy who actually didn't put up under the cupola?
It's a good fun to build.
It's a 50-year-old plus cupola.
It's George Disney.
He said it's not.
The curtains go up.
The furnace is out there, but the man
So they have their original plan.
dead.
Yeah, but that guy has to walk out.
Charlie Ackerman built this building, he's,
One more go around, and then we gotta do executive. Ms. Ham, go ahead.
Okay. I thought that Mr. Shilby's comment tonight was very useful, posting Green Acres.
Yeah, I'll talk to him after that. It's something that we talked about already offline, so I'll talk to him about that.
The other thing is having a current deer map, the one that's at the police
We'll do
department
that as well.
is not accurate. And the other thing is, you can say thank you to me for publishing your ordinance. It's the only place it appeared in print.
Truth be told, if people had attended the wildlife subcommittee meetings, they were sitting on the table right there, and anybody could have taken it.
You could say thank you.
Thank you. I will.
Well, one question.
Run this amendment, we'll go with it.
On the windmill that Mr. Orko purchased,
I have heard town purchase.
the town purchased it. When are we going to see it up?
Hopefully soon.
Yeah.
You volunteering?
Alright, I'm going to close the public comment portion of the meeting. Resolution 2014-95. We're going to go into executive session. We do not anticipate coming into come back into open session. Any comments from the committee on that? Take a motion on that resolution, please. Second.
Aye.